Hello and welcome to Record Sports Hotline Live on this Wednesday night. I'm joined by Record Sports Scott McDermott. Scott, how's it going?
No bad, mate. No bad. You okay?
I'm good, thanks. We're here ahead. We're here ahead of Kilmarnock versus Rangers. The dawn of a new era, the Barry Ferguson era, is about to get started, and we'll be joined a little bit later on by Record Sports Andy Newport, who is at Rugby Park. He'll be joining us once he arrives. But a big night for Rangers and for Barry Ferguson.
Massive night. It's funny. I seen a Rangers fan tweeting a wee while ago saying, at least with Philippe Clement away, the Rangers fans will actually be watching the game tonight because they'd probably just blanked it if he was still in a job, given how bad it was. But he's got a point in the sense that all eyes will be on Rugby Park tonight. No, I think probably even if you're not a Rangers fan, I think a lot of people will be fascinated to see how Barry Ferguson gets on his first game in the dugout. It'll be strange, even just seeing him in the touchline, especially opposite Derek McInnes, a former Rangers teammate. But just like we touched on last night, what does a Barry Ferguson team look like? What's the shape? What's the formation? What's the style going to be like? Are you going to see changes? Kind of tangible changes in the way they set up. It's going to be fascinating.
That definitely is. I mean, obviously we're still 6 o'clock. We're waiting in team news, where we'll give you that if and when we get it. But I mean, you mentioned the kind of style of play, Scott. Look, Barry Ferguson's obviously a Record Sport columnist, and you read his columns; they're a really good read every week. But sometimes when Rangers haven't been doing so well, it's sort of like, I'd get in there and all that. See if Rangers don't win tonight, I wouldn't want to be a Rangers player and then be dressing them after it.
You're right. I mean, I do think there'll be an element of, or I wonder if there'll be an element of getting back to basics tonight with Rangers. I mean, he said yesterday at his presser that he wasn't filling the players with loads of information, and I think that's a wise move. I think when there's turmoil at a club, managerial change, the last thing as a player you would want is just getting bombarded with a new guy's different ideas and systems and formations and stuff like that. I'd be amazed if he's not kept it very simple in the last 24 hours, and I think you see that in the performance. I think it'll be hard working. I think there'll be an urgency about them, a tempo about them that's been lacking in the last few weeks. I think it will be, and I don't think it's a bad thing for Rangers to get back to basics. You might even see like a kind of 4-4-2, a more conventional formation. From what I've read about Barry Ferguson and his time at Alloa and stuff, I think he did play kind of 4-2-3-1 a lot of the time. Obviously, if I look at the Rangers players in the last 24 hours or so, and he'll have made his mind up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty conventional, especially going to Rugby Park where you know what type of game it's going to be. Might be an attritional football anyway. So, I think back to basics will be the buzzword for him tonight.
As you can see, we're now joined by the one and only Andy Newport from Rugby Park. Andy, unconfirmed news that it's Neil McCann left mid tonight, Billy Dodds up top, Ferguson in the middle. Can you confirm?
Okay, what a team that would be. That would be. Well, the Rangers might have a chance tonight. Well, judging by the training video, I don't know if you watched that they put out last night. Wee Billy Dodds with the wee back heel and the flicks and the tricks. I think he's still gets like 45 minutes at him. Just like Scott.
Well, look, here's a comment to get started, Andy. John says Derek McInnes will make sure his team performs well tonight. He'll be auditioning for the manager's job at Rangers for the coming season. And as Scott says, a pretty tough game for Barry Ferguson to get his year underway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can get much tougher. Rangers' record down here has not been great. But it just seems remarkable. It's this time last year that Rangers came down here, managed to get a comfy behind win, and at that point you thought, wow, this is a team that, having been 7 points behind her in the title race, whatever it was when Philippe Clement took over, now that they look like they could be having a chance actually going on and winning the thing. And then I think it was the next game against Motherwell, the wheels came off and that was that. They say a week's a long time in politics, well, a year's a really long time in football. Yeah, I mean this Rangers team, They just need somebody. I think it's just listening to Scott as I came on there. We need somebody just to pick them up, lift the spirits. They've just been absolutely had the confidence ripped right out of them just by a couple of absolute, nightmare results. So, but you're absolutely right, Derek McInnes. Listen, he's been rumoured, he's been linked with this job for long enough. If he doesn't get it this time, I think we can start to say that maybe that's not going to happen.
Aye.
But he'll be wanting to go out and put down his own marker and really put a show on that. Perhaps the people at the San Francisco 49ers, Parag McGrath, maybe he is the guy to take the team forward after all.
Well, just on that, Andy, before we come on here, you might have seen it on Twitter, but Parags Marathi has been speaking. He's given an interview, I think, to the Financial Times. Says, I can't really comment on whatever the rumours might be, but we're looking at other opportunities. It's doable to replicate the passion of Leeds. We're looking for clubs with the right bones, history of success and potential for growth. If you're a sports person and you love it and treat it as a way of life like I do, then absolutely there is enough room in your heart to love all your sports properties, just like there is to love all of your children. So, definitely sounds like he's certainly not saying no to the idea of taking over Rangers.
Oh, I think there's enough whispers we're going about to say this is a deal that's a long way down the road. So it's just a matter of time before it gets signed and sealed. I think there's a period of due diligence still to be going through, but also I think we've all seen the bones of what Rangers' finances look like. So I don't think there's been too many surprises. They know what they're getting themselves into. As much as the club has been a bit of a basket case, to use for want of a better word, over the last few years financially, I think there's clear areas where progress can be made in that front, and they will see this as an investment that they can perhaps get a return on. So, it'll be an exciting project for them. It'll be more exciting for the Rangers fans because, frankly, they are crying out for somebody to come in and lift them. I think you even saw just for their actions. I said to Barry Ferguson's first press conference yesterday, the training video that the club put out, just people just re-engaging again with the team. Basically, they'd lost faith, they'd lost interest in what Rangers had to say for themselves under Philippe Clement. So it'll be interesting just to see what kind of performance they put in, whether that they can respond to that bit of freshness that seems to be back about the place. Listen, at the end of the day, there's nothing left to play for. I mean, I think what would be more damning than anything else is if this Rangers team suddenly, with nothing more than just Barry Ferguson coming in, suddenly going on a winning run and look like world beaters. I think then you start having to point fingers and ask questions about the dressing room. If you're deciding who to play for, if it takes a change of management before you'll start playing, then I think people will start. That's not quite right, but there is still a big prize to play for this season in terms of Europa League. Listen, I don't think anybody's expecting Rangers to go all the way and win it. But the further they can get it, the more money they can glean out of that competition, the better they'll be for next season. That's money that can be reinvested into the squad for next season. So, there's still plenty to play for this season.
Craig in the comment section says McInnes won't get the job. It has to be Gerrard, his prediction, or Kevin Muscat. And I did this to Scott last night, Andy. I'm putting you in the spot. I know I'm saying how long's a piece of string. There are going to be potentially new owners before the new manager's chosen. It could be anyone, right? But let me put this idea to you. If Barry Ferguson and this team, say, win 12, 13 games, 12, 11, 12 out of the 13 games, do you think there's any prospect that they could be kept on as the permanent team?
From a purely selfish point of view, probably not, because that would leave us shy of a columnist. So
very good point.
We're already scrambling to cover the last few weeks of the season. I don't. Listen, I think Barry Ferguson's, a club legend, a former skipper. Very well. I know he is very well regarded by the people running the club currently. Patrick Stewart, I think, is getting close to him in his short time at the club, but I think they'll know that they need somebody with proper experience at this level. Barry Ferguson's obviously got management experience, so does Billy Dodd, so does Neil McCann, but I think they'll know that they need somebody who is, not just a track record of success. I think they also they had that with Philippe Clement, the guy that won, was it 2 or 3 Belgian titles, I think it was, as well working in a top 5 league in France. I think they now need to start paying attention to not only the guys get the pedigree in terms of where he's worked before, but they also need to start paying attention to the style of play that he's going to implement. Philippe Clement came in, made changes to the way that the team had been playing under Michael Beale, but those changes didn't really stick. And the longer it went on, the more they reverted to the kind of performances we saw last year early on. So they need to really pay attention in terms of bringing in somebody that can prove, and there's a track record of showing that when it comes to games where there's 10 guys, 11 guys behind the ball, they know how to cut through them. I dare say, without wanting to get headlines, I think they need somebody like an Ange Postecoglou, and somebody who will come in and go, from the first whistle, it's all out attack. Because too often Rangers coast through first half an hour, 20 minutes of games without really doing anything. I don't know if Scott agrees with that, but I just think that if they're going to be serious about bringing in changing things on the pitch next season, whoever it be, Patrick Stewart, Fraser Thornton or the 49ers, they need to have somebody who is an ethos of we go out and we dominate teams, and not just dominate the ball, but they dominate in terms of how many chances they create.
Mm-hmm. I mean, right now, Steven Gerrard is the bookies' favourite. He is. Russell Martin is the second favourite. But what about that, Scott? A potentially Ange Mark II?
They would take that, certainly. I agree with Andy in terms of I'm not so caught up with actual style. I mean, you talk about Russell Martin there, for instance, who... No, it's no surprise that he's been linked to it, because he's obviously done quite well down south, at Swansea and Southampton. Obviously lost his job fairly recently, but he is completely renowned for a style. I mean, that is his trademark. I think their possession stats are through the roof, but I think you need to be careful with that as well. It's dangerous to go down that road because you need to have possession with a purpose. And as Andy touched on there, Rangers are going to be the dominant team in most games in Scotland anyway. They need to be clinical. They need to put teams away. They need to put teams away early, like Ange Postecoglou Celtic did. Pretty much for the minute he came in, or shortly after he came in. So I'm not sure about Russell Martin in that sense, but they need somebody to come in who is used to winning, is used to dominating, and to be honest, I think they need somebody that knows how to win in Scottish football or British football. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of fans might disagree with that. I see a lot of names from abroad mentioned. I'm not convinced, I must admit. I think the Rangers need somebody who knows how to win games, how to win British games of football. And listen, Barry Ferguson might not have a lot of experience managerially, as we touched on last night, but he knows this club inside out. He knows Scottish football. He knows what it takes as a player to go to places like Rugby Park and win. So he might not have bags of experience, and people might on the outside might be thinking, this was a crazy appointment, due to the kind of lack of that. But you never know in football. I said to you last night, Daniel, something might just click. I mean, you look back through the years, somebody like Walter Smith came into Rangers with no managerial experience. He'd worked under great managers, obviously, and then gets the Rangers job, having just been an assistant, and turns out to be arguably the greatest manager in the club's history. Strange things like that can happen in football. And I'm not saying Barry will be there beyond the summer, but as I touched on last night, he's got a brilliant opportunity. He's got a crack at it. He's earned a crack at it, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it pans out.
Just finally, Andy, in terms of the game tonight, well, I know he's not got a deep pool to choose from, but is there any changes that you really, or the Rangers fans or whoever, do you think there's anything screaming out that they want Barry Ferguson to change in the lineup or the way they play?
He kind of spoke about it yesterday. I think, obviously there's been a lot of hype, if you want to use that word, around Bailey Rice, especially in terms of one of the few young kids in the academy that people seem to be really, really excited about. Also, he get his chance in that Queen's Park game, unceremoniously hooked after 45 minutes by Philippe Clement, which I must admit looked a bit harsh to me, given that I think there was a few other players that day that were perhaps more deserving of that. So I just wonder, given he was a young player himself, and we all know the story about him, about how he very nearly left the club was edging towards that on the basis that he didn't think he was getting much opportunity under Walter Smith. Eventually, Dick Advocat came in and gave him his chance at, I think it was 19, 20. And then, obviously, it changed his life, basically. From that point on, he went on to become a mainstay in the Rangers team, Rangers captain, Scotland captain. So I just wonder if, Bailey Rice is maybe somebody that he's thinking about going, well, listen, if you're this good, if you're as good as everyone says you are, let's go and show it in a proper game tonight. But I'm not sure he'll be in for the start. I think he'll keep it very much similar to what it's been. As I say, I wasn't at the game at the weekend. I was at Easter Road for the Celtic match, but I imagine it'll be something fairly similar on those lines. Maybe Clinton Ciala perhaps maybe getting taken out of the firing line after his sort of torrid weekend. But I think the kind of numbers that Rangers have and the players available, there isn't that much scope to do tinkering with. So I wouldn't be expecting to see him ripping things up and starting again wildly.
Just quite sorry, I'll let you go in 2 seconds, Andy. But the one player, just to put this to both of you, that I'd want to see Ferguson go in and give a proper shake and say, look, what is going on here, is Bajrami. Because we've seen the clips, we've seen flashes of it at Rangers. He's a player. He's definitely a talented player. Why is he not showing it? And, I don't know if Barry Ferguson's the man to get that out of him, but I'd certainly be asking the question.
I think he's a player. It's a bit like, Václav Černý in that sense. He's a guy who plays in moments. I think you get far more moments out of Černý than you do out of Bajrami. I don't think there's any doubt that he's been underwhelming so far. He's said there's been flashes, a couple of moments here and there, but not nearly enough. Not for the money they paid for him. It's kind of bizarre signing in the sense that he came in right late in the window, and at that point Rangers seem to have a million number 10s. A lot of his time here he's sort of been shunted out wide left, and then when he does get his chance through the middle, he hasn't grasped it, and more often than not he's found himself out of the team. He seems to come in now and again for European games because I think he does have that sort of pressing aspect that is important when Rangers play against sort of bigger clubs from Europe. But yeah, I agree, he's not been a guy who you can sit here and say he's been a great return on the money they invested in. Was it £3.5 million, something along the lines of that? So yeah.
Just finally, what's your score prediction, Andy? How do you think it will go?
Oh jeez.
No pressure.
I hadn't even thought. I'll go 2-1 Rangers, but I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be very tight.
What do you think, Scott? How do you see it going?
Oh, you've put me in a spot, Daniel. I think it'll be tough for Rangers. I think it might be a draw, actually. Because of Barry Ferguson, his first game, you'd like to see him getting a result. You'd like to see a kind of real upturn in performance, even for the punters as well, just to give them something to cheer about. But you know how difficult Kelly are going to make it down there. I think if Rangers had John Souttar and Leon Balogun available, I think Barry Ferguson would have put them straight in. He would have relied on those two at the back. No, it does not look like they're available. It's young guys like Inciala, like Fernandez on loan. Robin Proper's obviously experienced, but he's not the physical type that enjoys that type of game either. So I would worry for Rangers at the back in terms of that kind of physicality. So I think I'll sit the fence and go for a one each.
Well, Andy, however it pans out, I hope it's an absolute cracker for you. I hope it's not too cold as well, and a safe journey up the road when the time comes.
Quite balmy for this time of year. It
looks nice. It looks nice.
I've got the heated Gilly. We Scotland all about that. I've not fired it up yet. I'll save that for the second half.
Nice one. Well, enjoy.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, Andy. Andy Newport there at Rugby Park. See, actually, just very quickly to finish in Rangers, Scott. I know Derek McInnes. And Keith actually gets a lot of stick on here for pushing Derek McInnes for the job. He's mate McInnes and all that stuff. Look, I'm not saying Derek McInnes is Jose Mourinho or anything, right? And I'm not saying he'd play amazing football. But I think if he became Rangers manager, he'd make them so hard to beat. He would really... I think he would be a really good Rangers, really, really tough to beat if he was Rangers manager.
I totally agree, Daniel. I mean, I've said on here many times, even over the years, I think Derek McInnes should be Rangers manager at one point. Now, whether that ship has sailed or no, we don't know. We know that he had a big opportunity to take the job back in the day. Circumstances weren't right. I think Keith spoke, and Derek McInnes might have even spoke openly by now about his reasons behind that. No, I think he'd even spoke to Walter Smith at the time, and things weren't quite right at the club. And he didn't feel it was the right moment. He was obviously in a really good job at Aberdeen at the time. But I agree with you. I think Derek McInnes has got all the hallmarks of being a really good Rangers manager. And listen, I'm not saying he would take them to the latter stages of Europe, and
I mean, neither. Aye.
He was doing a chip, but we touched on it earlier. Rangers need to get back to basics. Rangers can't win anything domestically at the moment,
Aye.
And I think domestically, Derek McInnes would get them back to winning consistently every week, and I think he would then grow into the job. I think he's probably got all the attributes, and I know a lot of fans are against him. They don't think he's of a level. No, there's probably a wee bit of bitterness there about when he did turn the job down, but I think we need to forget that. And listen, a lot of Rangers punters who I've heard from this week have been really impressed by how Barry Ferguson's carried himself and how he spoke. I think they would feel exactly the same way and more if Derek McInnes ever get that job. And it is interesting tonight because Derek McInnes at some point in his career, I'm not saying exactly at this moment, but at some point in his career, of course he'll have harboured ambitions to manage Rangers, and you just wonder what goes through his head. Nights like this when, with all due respect to Barry Ferguson, he's not done an ounce of what Derek McInnes has done in management, but circumstances and timing in football seem to dictate everything. And I agree with you earlier on. I think McInnes will want to put a wee kind of marker down tonight in terms of his own team's performance, almost like a wee nod to say, look, don't forget about me. If this is the route you're going down, then I could probably do every bit as good a job as Rangers manager, and I think he could.
Mark makes the very fair point, saying, is that the expectation to get Rangers hard to beat in Scotland? I take that point, but I'm meaning more. I mean, like St Mirren went to Ibrox at the weekend, and a lot of people are like, you know what, I fancy St Mirren. I mean,
of course, that's the expectation at the moment. Rangers are 13 points behind. No, they're out of a title race in February. They're out of both cups. No, getting out the Scottish Cup to lower league opposition. No, they've won one title in 10, 11 years, whatever it is. But of course, they need to get back to winning in Scotland. I mean, that has to be the number one priority. And I know, I speak to people, Rangers fans, kind of friends and family and stuff like that who are close to it. And the thing about Derek McInnes would be, Derek McInnes wouldn't get into Rangers, the Rangers manager's job thinking, this might get me to the Premier League or this might get me a job abroad. That would be his dream job. He would see himself there for 5, 10, 15 years. And Rangers need that kind of stability. Obviously, they need success, but they need stability as well. I don't think they need somebody to come in, a young manager from abroad, who would see Rangers as a stepping stone for a couple of years to go into the Premier League or further afield. And listen, as I said at the start, the McInnes ship might have sailed. There's been a lot of water under the bridge. He might have missed his opportunity to be Rangers manager. And look, the board might feel the same as a lot of fans that, as I say, that ship sailed. We'll look elsewhere. They might have a different profile. If the takeover goes through, would Derek McInnes even be on the radar of 49 Enterprises or whoever's running the club? Who knows? So, as I say, it might be miles off. But getting back to your original point, I think Derek McInnes at some point would be a very good Rangers manager. Whether he'll ever get the chance, who knows?
Time will tell. Right, but time is against the Scot, but we have to talk about Celtic last night. It's actually Mark again who makes the point. Right, what about Dyson? We could sell him, buy Rangers and still have change. Honestly, wouldn't take less than 50 million. Playing like with 13, 14 players. Playing with him is like having 13 or 14 players in the team. He says no player offers more than him. No right to score the Hibs goal or any goals last night. So sharp for the ricochet and still makes lung-busting runs at the speed in the 92nd minute. 25 goals now. I would say Scott is now the champion, the player of the year elect in Scotland. Would you agree?
Hard to disagree, Daniel. I've kind of thought about that the last few weeks. I'm on the committee for the Scottish Football Writers Association. Obviously, in a couple of months, we'll be voting for our player of the year. So you start to think about these things and you just can't see past Maeda at the moment. I mean, look, it'll be Celtic dominated, no doubt. And you talk about Callum McGregor, the goals he's got from midfield, the way he leads that team pretty much every week. Nicholas Kuhn, who I know you've mentioned on here before, has had a brilliant season, but how do you see past Maeda? The only thing I'm worried about is I don't think his speech will be that great at the awards dinner. If he gets,
that's a good point.
We might need to get the Celtic translator in, which will be fun in games. But nah, he's had a phenomenal season. As you say, I actually didn't realise the amount of goals until I heard somebody saying it today, and you've just repeated it. 25 goals. I mean, 25 goals for a guy who has predominantly obviously been a left winger and has played most of the season there. But he looks so sharp. He now looks like one of, if not Celtic's most valuable asset. I think he's 27, probably just coming into his peak. Seems to love it at Celtic. I don't know why you get that kind of vibe, but even more so than Kyogo or Hatate, you've always felt as if Maeda just loves playing in Scotland, loves playing for Celtic. Maybe the style of game suits his style here. You think of how he plays, he's all energy, 100%. But no, he's been incredible, and he was brilliant again last night.
Marzuno makes the point he's enjoying a taste of what it's like to be the absolute man at Celtic. And John says, there's a linchpin player for Celtic right now. Hope he extends his contract, but I fear he'll be sold in the summer. She says, Scott, 27. We used to always say, or a lot of pundits would say when he first arrived, look, if he could finish, if he could take his time, he wouldn't be at Celtic. Well, it kind of looks like under Rodgers he's developed that, and a lot of teams will be looking at me, I thought.
I agree with you. There's a real end product there, which that was the accusation a year or two ago. But he's added that. The numbers are through the roof. Interesting to hear Brendan Rodgers talk last night post-match about how he'd be surprised if clubs weren't looking at him. And I'm not saying the Celtic manager's trying to offload him or trying to attract bids. But if you're going to be really brutal about it, Celtic have made a name for themselves in the last 5 to 10 years, not just for selling players at a profit, but selling them at the right time, when they're at their optimum value. And as we've just discussed, it looks as if Maeda's at that point now, or he's getting to that point. So it would be really interesting if a big bid come in for him, because as I say, as ruthless and as brutal as that might sound, if you're going to sell him when he's at his best, then now might be the time. But as one of the callers said, it would take mega money to get him now.
It's cut. I mean, I've just this comment as well. It's the progress he's made in the hoops. When he first came, his second touch was an opposition throw-in. He'd fresh air yard out and pull out 50-50s. Real clubs develop real players. He's got 2 years left in his contract. I just think it's a massive summer. If Celtic can get him into a new deal, weigh him in a bit and say, look, you're the main man now. I just wonder, look, he's only human. He might, Premier League, La Liga, wherever. I'm sure he looks at that and is probably tempted. But
that's going to be an interesting thing. You're right. It's about his kind of personal ambition. Does he have aspirations to go and play in the Premier League? No. You look at the obvious ones. Ange Postecoglou again at Spurs. I mean, you look at Spurs and think Maeda would be an absolute dream in that team. The way Ange plays, obviously, even with the players they've got at their disposal just now. But how much would it take to get him, and would he want to go? I agree with you. I mean, I think if Celtic could get him tied down on a big deal in the summer, then it would be a huge bit of business for them in terms of how Rodgers wants to progress them. You think about the progression of made the Champions League this year, and he said in the last couple of weeks he wants to try and kick on again. If you're going to do that, it'd be a lot easier if you can keep Maeda. But I go back to it. Celtic have become expert at selling players at the right time for big money and for optimum value. And listen, I suppose it just depends if bids come in, but I'd be surprised if they weren't, because as you say, I think in terms of adding, he's a killer now, Maeda. No, he wasn't that previously. No, at times you felt, he always had that running power, but at times you felt as if he played in the periphery. No, it was more about moments with him. He looks absolutely relentless now, and a killer in the box. Used to say that about Kyogo in terms of his finishing, but it looks as if Maeda's developed that now as well. And we're seeing 25 goals at the moment. How many is he going to finish on at the end of the season? So it's been a brilliant campaign for him. And if he stays fit and he keeps firing like he is, then I think you're right. I think he's going to probably hoover up every Player of the Year award going.
Aye. I guess time will tell. Before we finish, Scott, it's Hearts St Mirren tonight as well. We haven't paid enough attention to that. Hearts, obviously, much improved under Neil Critchley. Just a point behind St Mirren going into the game tonight. They'll go into the top 6 with a victory. I mean, that's such a hard one to call. I think that's two varyingly what we saw in the cup actually when it went extra time and penalties the other day. I can't call it.
First of all, Daniel, I think we need to say I almost feel sorry for St Mirren because they've had no credit whatsoever for that result at the weekend. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, that's him beat Rangers twice in the trot for the first time in decades. First time they won at Ibrox since, 1991 or something like that. Incredible. Stevie Robinson's done some job there, but with everything that's happened at Rangers and Barry Ferguson coming in, it has been totally lost. So I feel for them in that sense. But a real tough one going to Tynecastle for them after Ibrox. And like you say, I've been impressed with Hearts recently, impressed with Neil Critchley. I think they're actually an outside bet for the top 3 now. I think I would expect Hearts to win tonight and really put themselves in contention for that third spot, which seemed impossible at the start of the season. You think of the start that they had, but they've made some good signings. Cabangu, I think, has been a revelation for them. I think it's like 7 goals in 6 games, something crazy like that. I think he's added a different dimension to them up front, and the race for third is going to be really interesting. So you're right, tight game tonight, but I think Hearts will probably just edge it.
If they win tonight, they're 4 points off third, which, as you say, is remarkable considering how it was. But very quickly, just on Stephen Robinson, look, I'm not. St Mirren fans won't thank me for this, but a bit like Maeda, I'm really surprised there's not been other teams after him. I mean, see to finish in the top 6 with a club like St Mirren. No disrespect to him, they're not the biggest club. That's a massive achievement, and he's on the verge, or maybe not on the verge, but he's close to doing it again. What, for the 3rd season running?
Yeah,
I mean, that's remarkable.
And he's also getting big results. He's getting results against the Old Firm. Even though he might not have beaten Celtic this season, but you always feel as if St Mirren are in games, even against the big guns. And listen, Stevie Robinson's just a really good manager. Wherever he's been, he's done pretty well. And I think St Mirren are lucky to have him. I think they know that. I think the club know that. I think they appreciate him. They've got a good thing going there. As I say, gave them some real memorable moments already. And as you say, if they can get in top 6 again this season, it'd be what did he say? I think he said last week at his press conference he wants statues of all the players if they get top 6 again. So he might just get his wish.
Aye. Honestly, I hope for St Mirren's sake, I hope no one comes after him. But I think he's a brilliant manager. Just to finish on this, Scott, Gianni, friend of the show. Good evening, guys. I was on the phone to Keith last night. He's moving to La Marca newspaper in Spain. sorry for your loss. Listen, if they want to pay the £250 release clause,
yeah, that's what I'm going to say. We're like Celtic. We sell it. We sell it to optimum value. So
he's just had that big exclusive.
Exactly, he's hit his peak. Time to offload him, Daniel.
Absolutely. Look, watch this space. We can't say any more than that. Listen, Scott, thank you very much as always for joining me on the Hotline Live. Much appreciated. Thanks for all the comments again, and thanks for getting involved in the conversation. We'll be back to do it all again at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Hope you can join us then. Cheers.